What? What? Hey, how's it going? It's been like almost a week since I've seen you. How are you doing? How are the kids? Yeah, how are your folks? How are your folks? What are you doing? Why are you talking to a screen? This is not how this works. This is a video. Get it together. Jeez. So what is up, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Talk. Man, it has been a long time since I've stepped in front of this camera, and welcome back, everybody, to Let's Talk. My name is Gatlin, and today the show that we're going to be talking about is Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But before we get started, let me just start you off with this. So the inspirational quote today that we're going to start off with is by Earl Nightingale, and Earl Nightingale said, "Ideas are worthless unless you act upon them." And so basically what he's talking about is the fact that we can have these big dreams, we can have these big goals, we can have these big desires to do something with our life, but unless we actually plan for them and act on them, then they're just as worthless as the random thought that we have in our mind. So I don't know necessarily what that does for you, but I really hope that inspires you, and I really hope that gets you to step outside of your comfort zone, because that's where life really begins. So ladies and gentlemen, let's get back into business. And this episode we're going to be talking about Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a TV series about Inhumans, about Hydra that is kind of like an itch that you just can't scratch, and it's about this evil book that is being introduced now, known as the Darkhold.
The things I saw was expanding my brain and my reality.
Getting all Gollum-y again.
That's what the Darkhold does to you, drives you mad.
And thanks to the Darkhold and among other evil sciences that is introduced in the show, we know that the Darkhold and with the sciences that is in the show now comes the creation of augmented reality. And so today we're going to be talking about augmented reality, and the reason why we're going to be talking about this, because if you didn't get this video, then you'll definitely understand it now with the discussion of augmented reality, how it works, what is it, and the breakdown of both sides of what it's having in society or not. And so let's break it down for you. And so the first breakdown is going to be, what are the benefits of augmented reality? And so what augmented reality is, having a reality that is separate from the one that we already know and we already can perceive, that is something that is computerized, that is something that is like ones and zeros, but it's something that is completely far-fetched from what we know today as actual reality. But what makes augmented reality so special, especially within how Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. introduces it, is that it's not like the cardboard that we see from Google or the giant pair of goggles that we see from Samsung. This is a whole new world in total. And so the thing about it is that there are a number of benefits and a number of deficiencies that can come with both sides of either having this in a society or not having it in a society, and whether you can use it as a tool for good and evil. And so let's talk about that. And so for the first argument, we are discussing the benefits of augmented reality. And so augmented reality, some of the main benefits that you could have is that it creates a reality that can be better than the reality that we have now. And so what I mean by that is that we are extremely blessed to be able to do some of the things that we can. We are extremely blessed to be able to live in the countries that we live in, to be able to speak the languages that we speak, to be able to walk and talk as freely as we can be. But that privilege is not granted to every single person. And so say, for example, if you're walking down the street and you see someone who is in a wheelchair, or you see someone who has a deficiency in their speech, that is something that is a deficiency that they have to live with for the rest of their life. And so augmented reality will be able to give that person more of a chance to live a life that they've always imagined. It's not necessarily saying that it's going to be a quote unquote normal life, but can you even define what a normal life is? So augmented reality will be able to give this person a life that they've always dreamed of, to where they're not bound by that wheelchair, to where they're not bound by the pressure that they face on a daily basis with their speech or dialect. They're not bound by any other deficiencies or disabilities that they may or may not have. It creates this society and this creates this world for the individual to where they're completely free of the stress, the limitations, the pressure that comes with living in a society, that comes with simply being alive. And so this is something that can definitely spark a heck of a lot of interest in a lot of people and can definitely do a lot of good. And another thing that it could do that is extremely beneficial is the fact that it can eliminate the risk that people have in our society. And so say, for example, what if you found out that you had 1 year to live? What are the risks that you would take in that year? What are the things that you would do in that year that is different from your daily life? And so if you are living in this augmented reality, those things would be more obsolete because you can do all of those things within a day or an hour in augmented reality and it feel like a year or a decade. And so the thing about it is that if you were to have an extreme example, like say you wanted to know what it's like to live in a zombie apocalypse, say you wanted to know what it's like to be the last man on earth, say you wanted to know what it's like to decide if you want to kill your brother or your best friend, if you wanted to have any extreme example played out for you, augmented reality will be able to give you that reward instead of you having to take the risk in order to obtain it. There is no risk versus reward factor in augmented reality because you're able to set it the way that you desire it. And so it's basically like Total Recall, but you know everything going in. And so it's like having the best parts of a lucid dream without it ever having to end if you don't want it to. And even though that is the case, it doesn't necessarily come without its detriments. And so let me give you a second breakdown. And so the second breakdown is its detriments within society and how it can be used for a lot of evil things. Some of the evil things that it can be used for is imprisonment. And so let's look at our own justice system. Our justice system contains more people within our prisons than anywhere else in the entire world. And so a lot of people can consider this either just or unjust, and wherever side you fall on is whatever side you may. But think about it like this. Those people who have been in our justice system have been tried and actually convicted of crimes. And yeah, there are some cases in which that doesn't happen. And yeah, those are cases that are unjust. But think about it like this. If there are some cases in which that doesn't happen, in which they are unjust, think about it on the more extreme spectrum of when someone is imprisoned with augmented reality that they do not want to be in, and what would happen if that happens on a regular, consistent basis. What if there are rings of people who are trapped within augmented reality and cannot escape, and someone is using their bodies or using their organs for their own personal use or their own personal gain, while that person is in a reality that they are perceiving as quote unquote normal. And so that's one of the first detriments of augmented reality, of using it for such a horrendous act as imprisoning someone against their will, since this will be such an accessible part of our society. Another thing that you have to consider within the detriments of augmented reality is the fact that someone can easily use this for torture. And so we can easily understand that there are numerous ways in which someone can be tortured. And whether those ways are effective or ineffective is not the topic of conversation for today. But what is the topic of conversation is how someone could use augmented reality for torture. And so augmented reality is a very special tool in how that it can provide someone with their own personal world that is suited to their needs and their desires. But it can also provide someone with a own personal tool that is suited to someone else's needs or someone else's desires.
Oh no. Hello, Agent May.
And so what that means is that if I wanted to trap you in an augmented reality state, that means that I can be able to imprison you and not only keep you in a world that is completely extremely similar to our own that you won't even notice, but I can have you tortured in this world. I can be able to ensure that you endure extreme amounts of mental pain that you will always perceive as physical, because the body that you think you have is not actually the body that you have, but you are perceiving that the pain is real because your mind is perceiving it as real.
Oh no, no, no!
And so because of something like this, it is something that is extreme detriment to augmented reality, but at the same time, you do have the tools in which you could use augmented reality for good. And so these are the two sides of the argument. So let me know what side you fall under. Do you think that augmented reality is something that is worth it if it could be used for such good as providing someone the favorite parts of reality without having to be so drawn into it? Or do you think that it should be eradicated completely as far as not being so sophisticated to where it's able to be so accessible to that someone could use it for torturous or imprisonment means? I'll definitely love to hear what you guys have to say about it, because this is such a serious topic that I'll definitely love to talk about with you guys. And ladies and gentlemen, that brings me to the ever most important question of the day. And the question of the day is, would you want to live in a world where augmented reality was a tool for both good and evil? And we've seen both sides of the argument, and let me know which side you fall under. Lord, I'm not judging, but I just want to know what you guys think. And until next time, stay talking, guys.